Are you recording?
Roger Sherman, ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, man. I can't complain. Doing well.
That's right. That's what I told you earlier. I'm not gonna listen to you complain of all people. You're
No,
living
it's
your
just a
best
waste of your
life,
time.
man.
It's a waste of your time, brother.
You're living your best life. So thanks a lot for joining today. I remember talking to you towards the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm like, you know what, man? Like, it would just be awesome to have a conversation with you. And we couldn't quite figure out like how we would do it, what we would talk about and such. And so I'm just super excited because you're a good friend. I support your business. I love what you're doing. And I couldn't think of anybody better to talk to today.
Appreciate it, man. And just full disclosure, for everybody watching today, Shawn and I go back over a decade. He actually did my mortgage when I bought my house, which is, and he's been real helpful and supportive of my business. I've tried to be as supportive of him as well, but it's been great. We're still in the house you helped us buy, and we continue to make improvements on it, but we appreciate you helping us out.
Yeah, no worry. Speaking of which, I always I'm good. I've started to start these with a story, right? So I had a story. So I guess I got sort of one and a half stories now. One was someone reached out to me a couple weeks ago. Hey Shawn, a buddy of mine says they'd love for you to build them a table because they're gonna buy his dad one of these Kamado grills, right? Ceramic grills. And so I'm in this group thread with a couple golf buddies or whatever, Roger, and I had sent a picture out to them of this table that I built on my patio with the Kamado grill and everything, right? And so he's like, this looks awesome, and he says he'll make it worth your while. And I was like, well, what does that mean? He's like, he just put some money in your pocket. And I'm like, listen, dude, like I did this project because we weren't going out of the house for forever. And I was I was okay with going to Lowe's and picking up lumber and stuff like that. And my son was here to help me, and it was more of a project for the family. I was like, man, I do mortgages, man. I don't build tables. So if you want, I'll go over to his house and I'll help him build it, and we build it together for free. But I don't need to get paid to build a table because mortgages are my lane. So that was the story I was going to talk about. But then it was just something that you just said earlier that made me kind of think about something else. I I remember a few years ago because on this particular show, and I'll let you talk and introduce yourself after I tell this story. But I talk about relationships all the time, and it's like build relationships before you need them. And so I was blessed to be able to help you and your wife purchase your home in DC. Honestly, like right before things really kind of took off with the housing
Yep.
market, and so things have been. I know you're extremely blessed, like in the position that you are
Yes.
right now with your home. But do you remember when I did a fight party? And I'm like, you know what? I'm District Pit all the way. Like, we're just gonna have them cater. We're gonna hire bartenders, do all this stuff. So you all came over, super professional. Like you had, all the dishes made up. They were packaged right. You even had the cards to put on the counter to explain like what everything was. And then you guys packed up, and you were like, "Oh, we'll see you later." And I'm like, dude, what do you mean you see us later? You go stay
Stick
here and
around
watch
for
the
the
fight
fight.
with us.
Stick around. Yeah. So this was Mayweather. Was it Mayweather McGregor was
Yeah.
the fight? I remember this very specifically. Yeah, like I said, we got over there, we put everything out, we were getting ready to roll. He was like, what are you doing? Sit down and watch this. You did all the hard work. Now hang out a little bit, and we did. We ended up sticking around till like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It was a good time.
Yeah, it
Real
was
good time.
so fun. I'm like, what do you mean you're gonna leave? Like you're staying for the party, man. Like your work is done. So build relationships before you need them because you just don't know like the people that you support that are, you know, down for you and, you know, love the way that you do business. You just never know how things will turn out. And like we've become friends. Like we've become friends and we're gonna always try to help each other out as best we can. So Roger, tell us, you know, who you are and what you do.
So my name is Roger Sherman. As we've discussed, I am the owner and pit master for the District Pit, which is a barbecue catering company here servicing the District of Columbia and the surrounding areas. We've been in business for about 4 years now. It is not my full-time business. I have a full-time job and my wife has a full-time job. But this is a side project that we kind of put together a couple years ago when it was coming up on time for us to start writing checks to different collegiate organizations. So we're stroking big, hefty checks to DePaul University and Temple University right now, but we're not having to come out of our, you know, our own personal savings. So, you know, we've put it into overdrive. We're out there, you know, trying to put together, you know, delicious, savory meals for people, for, you know, for catering and personal use. But, you know, it's just a passion project. We bought a house. We had a big patio on the back. We put a grill back there. After a couple of years, you know, of cooking and doing things with our friends, people started asking us to do stuff for them. We started out just doing holiday turkeys. We started out just smoking turkeys for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then eventually a couple of people asked us to cater some small events. A couple of years later, you know, we're doing bigger and bigger and bigger events. And, you know, now we're kind of a full-fledged business. So, you know, maybe one of these days there's a brick and mortar, but right now, you know, we're catering and we're, you know, putting out that collegiate money. But, you know, it's been good. That's kind of where we've come from. That's kind of where we've grown. And it's just simple business. We're just doing meat and fire.
Meat and fire. So let's talk about that. We're going to go meat and fire. Then we're going to talk about COVID and, you know, some of the pivots that you've made.
Sure.
And then we're going to get into this holiday turkey thing. Right.
Sure.
So, talk about like meat and fire. Like, it's funny because I saw you, I posted something on Facebook and what did I say? Self-proclaimed grill masters.
Yeah, self-proclaimed grill master. Yeah.
Wannabes. And so I was calling out some of my friends that think that they're just so great on the grill and their food is so delicious. Right. And so like, what's the, like, is there a rhyme or reason behind like what you do, like different types of meats that you smoke? Like, I know, for instance, I tried to cook some tips. I think they're like beef tips or whatever it was once. You know, I'm pescatarian and you tease me about that because I eat your sides, but
Right.
I still cook for my family, right? And I cook some is it rib tips or beef tips?
You can do both. Yeah, I do rib tips typically. Yeah. I do pork tips.
All right. So I think it was the pork and I smoked them for a long time on very low heat. I put, you know, what was like gravy or whatever it is in there. It's like, you know, the liquid in there to try to keep them moist or whatever. And they dried out. Like, obviously you probably need more detail behind that, but like, I thought if I smoked low and slow that it would remain tender. What happened?
So let's back up a little bit, and I'll throw out a couple of things before we, you know, we could talk about the specifics of your rib tips, and I'm sure you didn't do anything really wrong. Maybe you just went a little too long, or maybe the fire temperature wasn't where it needed to be. But there's a couple of things that I just want to throw out in general about barbecue. First of all, you talked about your friends that are self-proclaimed, you know, grill masters. I just always want to say this when I start talking to people about barbecue, and I have these conversations fairly regularly. First and foremost, anything that I tell you about barbecue is simply my experience of what works for me. So if you've got something out there that's working for you, that dad taught you or grandpa taught you, and it's working for you and your family or your customers, if you have customers, you know, keep doing that. I'll give you a little piece of what works for me. And, you know, if that helps you out, great. You know, if you've got something that's working out for you, great. The number one thing I like to throw out to people about barbecue is it's not rocket science. I said it before, it's meat and fire. If you think you cannot do this, you're wrong. It's really not that hard. Cavemen have been doing this for tens of thousands of years. They have far less intellect than we have. I've got a college education. I've got a job as a corporate executive. I'm a pretty intelligent guy, but at the end of the day, I'm just dragging meat over top of fire, and people have been doing that for 100,000 years. So relax, people. Put some coals on, you know, put some meat over top of it, And if you burn it up a couple of times, chalk it up, call it a loss and try it again. The big thing about barbecue is time and patience. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're not going to get it right the fifth time, but eventually you'll figure it out. I'll throw out one more anecdote, just to keep this rolling. Barbecue, like I said, it's old. It's been around for a long time, and it makes food taste the way food is supposed to taste. And this is important for you to understand. People kind of look at me kind of funny when I say that, and I'll explain to you why I mean that. The gas oven is only 100 years old. The electric oven is only 75 years old, and the microwave is like 40 years old. So fire, hundreds of thousands of years old. So if you're cooking meat over fire, that's what food is supposed to taste like. So that's my piece for you. So as far as your rib tips are concerned, the way you threw it out there to me, my guess is you probably had them on for a little bit longer than you needed to if you ended up drying them out, especially if you had some liquid in there with them. But it could have been, you could have cut them too thin. You could have cut them too thick. It's just one of those things where you just got to sit out there and play around with it for a little bit of time. And if eventually you'll get it right. You just got to play for it. The first time I cooked a brisket for myself and my family, my wife and my kids, kind of looked at me and smiled and swallowed it down. But they was eating shoe leather. Today,
you said shoe leather, huh?
Shoe leather, man. It was shoe leather. But today, if I give you some brisket, that's some real good stuff. It's I cook a couple hundred briskets a year, and if I don't have it right by now, I don't think I'd still be in business. So I'm actually cooking some briskets this weekend. So
what's your favorite? Like, what's your go-to where you knock it out of the park every time?
Pork ribs, man. If I'm doing St. Louis style pork ribs, I know I'm going to get that right every time. It's like if I put that out there, if I my most commonly requested menu is pork ribs and smoked chicken, which chicken and ribs, that those two things go together pretty good. I don't even have to taste them. I always will, just because if you don't taste them, you're doing yourself and your customers a disservice on the off chance something did go wrong. But 9 out of 10 times, I hit that so far down the line over the right field wall that it's not a problem. There's some other things out there that I play around with that I have a little trepidation with. If you got me cooking venison, there's a little bit of trepidation there. I don't do it all that often. I've cooked gator for customers. I was a little concerned about that. But if I'm doing chicken and ribs, I'm not even remotely worried about it. I can do it in my sleep.
And what's a day like look for you smoking? Like, so you said you're going to be doing it, cooking this weekend. So is it a ton of work, or do you talking about grilling and chilling, right? So do you get an opportunity to like kind of hang back a little bit, or is it like intense work the whole time?
It's intense work. So especially if I'm doing it for customers. If I'm out there just doing it for family and friends, there's a little bit more grill and chill associated with it. But if I'm cooking for a customer and I know it's going to be a long cook, like if I'm cooking briskets, usually I cook briskets anywhere between 12 and 16 pounds. That's how I like to cook them, because I think that that's where they'll have the best moisture and the best texture. I know it's going to be a 12 to 16 hour day. So I'll be up at 4 a.m. I'm going to get up, I'm going to prep them, I'm going to trim them up, I'm going to season them up, and I'll have these things on the pit, so I'm lighting a fire by 5 o'clock, the pit's ready to roll by 6 o'clock. I'm dropping meat on it. And then after that, you're just watching the fire. Every 2 or 3 hours, you got to go out there. You got to make sure it's dialed in. You got to open it up. You got to put a log on it. You got to make sure it's not too big. You got to make sure it's not too small where it's just going to burn up on you real fast. And then it's just watching the fire. The hardest part about barbecue is not prepping the meat. It's not, coming up with your recipes. Usually, you can get a recipe from grandma and put it on the grill and it'll be good. The hardest part of it is fire maintenance. If you cannot maintain your fire at the temperature that you're looking for, and I like to cook between 250 and 275 degrees on most things. If you can't maintain that temperature, you're going to provide your customers with some bad barbecue.
Got it.
It's a long day, Shawn. And like I said, if you're cooking for a lot of people, you got to pull a lot. You got to put a lot on that smoker, and you got to pull a lot off this smoker. So I might put 150 pounds of meat on that smoker between, beef and pork and chicken. You got to take it all out there. You got to carry it all in. You got to cut it all up. You got to put it in the pans. And I'm out here solo most of the time. So it's a long day, brother. It's a long day.
So let's talk about real quick COVID, right? So we're in a not even a national, world health crisis.
Sure.
right? Pandemic. And um, you mentioned earlier when we were doing small talk beforehand that your business is going well. You've maintained, you're actually up from last year. Like what kind of pivots did you, and this is for all the business owners too, as well to hear. Um, what kind of pivots did you make or have to make in order to sustain the business?
I had to change my entire business model. So we are basically catering. We like to do events with a minimum of 30 people, up to 400 people that we've done is the biggest event we've done. We cook the meats, we cook the sides, we put them in nice presentations like we did for you. We set them up and then we step back, put some tongs out there, and if we have to fill it in, we'll fill it in. And that's how we do our events. And we let people serve themselves. We'll work the room. We'll talk to people. We'll try to get business for next time. Get our names out there, word of mouth. All that went away. The day in March when they shut down everything, I canceled about 15 events going into the summer and basically turned off the spigot to tens of thousands of dollars that I need to hand to two different universities. So that was pretty tough. So we had to sit and come up, with some plans. Luckily my wife and I, we didn't lose our jobs due to the pandemic. We're both employed full time. So we could have very easily just said, you know what, we're just going to put barbecue away for a little while and we're just going to focus on, our regular lives. But we decided we didn't want to do that. So what we pivoted to was individual platters, and it was something that we've never done. We rent space out of a corporate kitchen, and we decided that we were going to put together big social media campaigns for us. We're not big social media people, but we were going to put together some social media campaigns, and we were going to start filming some videos of me cooking, and we were going to put together some 2 or 3 minute spots where people could look at these things and say, oh, it's really easy to smoke ribs. Oh, it's really easy to cook chicken. Oh, he's doing that this week, and we just watched him do it. And then we would put these things out there between Monday and Thursday. And then we would give individuals the opportunity to order plates, and we would sell individual plates. So some weeks so the first week we did it, we did ribs, and we sold 35 of these things. And we were kind of off to the races, and it kind of grew and grew and grew. And then you get to Memorial Day, and then it dies off a little bit, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew, back up to the 4th of July. And we did that every single weekend, until, through August when things started opening up a little bit and we had the opportunity to do a little bit more catering. So it's a lot more work. It was a lot harder. If we cook for 50 people and we just put it out there and they serve themselves on plates that we provide, that's pretty easy in comparison to cooking for 35 people. And then you got to plate each individual plate. You got to put it in a nice presentation. It's got to be beautiful when they open it. You got to close it off, and you got to have 35 of these things ready to go at noon and have them all be hot. It was really hard, but we got it done. We also pivoted to vending, which is something that I was very uncomfortable doing with initially, because there's kind of some there's the unknowns associated with vending. You might cook for 100 people and 15 people show up. What do you do with all this product? And we're out there just kind of taking chances. So we put ourselves in a position where we worked with a couple of different organizations who needed vendors here and there. And we've done a couple of vending opportunities, cook a nice spread, put a nice sign up with some pricing. And, one person comes up, serve that person. The next person comes up, you serve that person. If you're lucky, you got a line of 25 people. If you're unlucky, you're standing there with product. And it's just one of those chances that we had to take. And, we were willing to take that chance. And sometimes we've hit big home runs, and other times we've got on base with some singles, and, a couple of other events, we found ourselves standing out in the rain, striking out. So, every opportunity that was presented with us, we were willing to try it. If nothing else, there's nothing good that has come out of this pandemic. A lot of people have gotten sick. A lot of people have died. There's nothing positive to say about the pandemic. But if you want to try to put a positive spin on this, it gives you an opportunity to try new things that you might not have been willing to try under normal circumstances. And that's just kind of what has happened with us. And as a result, we're up to last year, month over month through October. We're ahead of last year by about 8%. And I couldn't ask for anything more. We were in a position where we could have said, we're not going to do anything and shut it off. And we didn't.
Wow, that's amazing. I wrote that, taking notes, because it doesn't, guys, matter the business. Like you said, you're cooking meat, with fire, right? And so what you've been able to do is to, as a business leader, is identify the opportunity, right? You plug that gap, and then you take some chances, right? And so that's what I'm hearing. You have to, in your situation when your back's against the wall, figure out what the opportunities are, find a way for you to take or take a chance to fill that void. And so it's what it sounds like you've done. And I will say, when you talked about the videos, my favorite video is that egg dish that you did. I cooked that the very next day. So
Breakfast,
I
yeah,
think
breakfast
I
on the
texted you
grill.
and everything.
Sure.
It was like a souffle or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yeah, it's almost like a quiche. We call it smoked breakfast scramble because it sounds more manly than quiche.
Yeah, quiche. That's what it was. Cause that's I was texting you, he's like, dude, it's just quiche. And
Yeah.
so that was so awesome. My kids were very excited about it. My wife was looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, why you have all this? Cause I put salmon in it. Cause I'm texting you like, you think I could cook salmon? You think that'll work out? And like you had a bunch of vegetables. No veggies. I asked if I could put veggies in it and salmon, but yours was just like all like, bacon and sausage and stuff
Yep.
like that, right?
We had the whole pig, a little couple of pieces of cow in there. We had some chicken in there. Pour some egg over the top, some cheese. I mean, everything in there. Throw it on the smoker, let it get good, and then, what we do because we're this is how we roll. You cook it up in a cast iron skillet, then you just set it there, and you got your whole family sitting around it with a knife and a fork, and everybody's just kind of eating out of the skillet. There's no dishes to wash.
That's what we did, and I mean, it
Yeah,
was a hit with the family. And I shared it with the in-laws and everything. It was a hit. So thank you for that.
no
And I've
problem.
enjoyed your videos. Watching them. That I think personally, Roger, moved the needle for you as well because you were able to humanize your business quite a bit, and have us to kind of get into your world to understand what you're going through and to really like root for you, And so I've really enjoyed watching your videos, and you teach too as well while you're doing it. And so that's been really amazing. So last thing, along the lines of the business and the conversation before we get into one other thing, but um, uh, holiday season, we know, right? You mentioned Christmas and Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving and Christmas, those were your times, when you first got started that really helped your business, kind of grow. Uh, Thanksgiving coming up, you smoking turkeys and such. Like, are you seeing what in where we are right now? Big demand for that, like in
I think
regards to folks reaching out to you.
I think there will be. I think that people are like what we've always done at Thanksgiving is really family based. Very rarely are we out there doing 10 or 20 turkeys for an organization that's having something. It was all family based. I do expect to have a really positive Thanksgiving, especially because we've increased our family customer base. So we've got consistent customers who have been purchasing food from us weekly all summer. We'll put out these Thanksgiving and Christmas offerings to them, and I expect to do some business. I mean, it might not be as hard hitting as it was in the past, but I do expect for it to be very positive, holiday season for us. I don't expect anything less. And if it is, that's fine. If people decide during this course of this year they want to, take the opportunity to eat out in small groups, or if they want to do it themselves, we fully support. If you're interested in knowing how to smoke a turkey, we do have that up on the Instagram and the Facebook page.
I was going to ask you that, like, without giving your trade secrets out, how the heck do you smoke a turkey?
It's very easy. It's meat and fire. We smoke everything the exact same way. You put the turkey on a pan. You prep the turkey however grandma taught you to prep it, however she told you to prepare it, and then you take it, you put it on a pan, and you put it on the grill instead of putting it in the oven. It's really that simple. The difficulty to it, again, like I said before, is maintaining the temperature. If you don't know how to maintain the temperature, you're going to screw up Thanksgiving dinner. If you're afraid of that happening, call me, buy a turkey from me, I'll take care of you, and then you can watch the video later. You can try it yourself for Christmas.
Nice. This was amazing, man. So look, how can we find you and
So
get in contact with you?
to reach, you can reach us at thedistrictpit.com. That's our website. We're also on Instagram at District Pit, and we're on Facebook at The District Pit. We post all of our weekly offerings there. We post videos with us doing cooking. We post videos, with culinary tips. So reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or on the website. And, if you've got questions about barbecue, we're happy to answer them or try to help you out. If you're interested in ordering an individual platter, we'll take care of you that way. And if you've got a small event coming up, I think Virginia and DC are allowing events up to 50 people. If you need catering for that, we're ready to take care of you then too.
Thank you. Thank you. So look, dead or alive, you get to meet with someone. All right, who would you meet with? And when I say get to, you only get one question as well. Who would that
Great.
be? And who would that be? And what would the question be?
So I love this question. So this is a good one. So I thought about this one a little bit, and this is what I came up with. So if I could meet one person, I'm gonna go biblical on you, and I'm gonna talk to King Solomon. That is who I would want to talk to. So he's the wisest king in the history of the world, quite possibly one of the wisest men in the history of the world, not just a monarch, but excellent stories in the Bible about him. So there's a story, I'll do this very quickly. Story in the Bible, if you are religious, you might have some familiarity with the story. Two women come to King Solomon, and they've got an infant child with them, and they are arguing about who actually is the mother of the child. Each of them are claiming to be the mother of the child, and they need Solomon to make the determination about who is going to raise the child. So Solomon, in his infinite wisdom, decides that this is very easy to fix. I'll just cut the baby in half, and each of you can have half of the baby, and then the problem is solved. So he looks to his servant. His servant is told to go get him a sword so he can very quickly handle this problem and move on to the next problem in his kingdom. One of the ladies jumps forward and says, "No, don't do that. It's her baby. She can have the baby." Solomon, in his infinite wisdom, obviously identifies this woman as the mother because she is more concerned with the child's well-being than her ability to raise the child. She wants the child to be safe and alive rather than cut in half, and that is far more important to her. Solomon gives the baby to that woman, and the other woman is punished. So if I have the opportunity to ask Solomon a question, the question I'm going to ask him: if nobody steps forward, are you going to cut that baby in half? That's my question.
Oh wow!
I wonder what he'd say. I don't know if you're probably not going to try to call the monarch's bluff, but I'd be curious as to what he would say.
You thought there was some intention behind that?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I think he knew what he was going to get out of it, but I think if that had came up short and he had to pull out that sword and cut an infant in half, I'm curious as whether or not he would have done it. I think he would not have, but I'm curious.
No, I don't think so either. But that's a great question. Thank you for that story. So, guys, like I mentioned, everyone here listening, relationships, build them before you need them. DNA, man, like why you do what you do. You gave us a pretty clear why, Roger. With the education for your family. That's what really got you into it. But however, cooking with fire is your passion, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's what leads you to do it. And also your executive experience and your background makes you run it like a professional business, not a hustle, not like something that you don't care about. It leads you to be professional and do things with excellence at the highest level. And then lastly, we talk about always having a plan. The thing that I like the most is your plan during the pandemic, on the positive aspect of it, right? Finding the opportunities, right? And then also taking some risk and some chances to see where it would go. And so I applaud you for that. I admire it. I appreciate you for coming on today. Anyone here, if we or I can do anything to help you in any way, we're here to do so. Just reach out. You know how to get in touch with me. The goal is always to bring my network, right, to my network. And so just reach out. Lastly, stay safe and try to be as healthy as you possibly can. And go vote. Go vote. And so other than that, that's all I have for today. Roger, thanks again. Roger Sherman with the District Pit. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Shawn. I really appreciate it, man.
No worries. And then we'll see you all next week. Have a great one.